before yesterday, I think they fledged, didn't they?
Yeah.
So they fledged, and obviously we've cleaned the bird box out in case some birds which do go back and have a second brood. But yeah, so sadly it died. We don't know why it didn't make it, but it's always, nature's hard. Nature's really tough. It's only mankind that are worse, which I always say. But nature's tough, and you know, the fittest 4 made it. That one was obviously one of the weaker ones. It wasn't putting its head up for food as much as the others, and it didn't make it. But there's always a runt of a litter, really. I'm the runt of my litter, and Laurie's the runt of his litter. So a couple of runts together. There's another joke I say there.
We are actually back on YouTube now as well.
Guys,
so
welcome back. Sorry about that.
There are, unfortunately, there's only 37 people on there at the moment, but hopefully that will start to come in. Apologies for the issue on that one, guys. Unfortunately, our internet did manage to cut out and just kicked it off completely. So we've managed to limp through. It's a lot easier to keep the stream going on Facebook than it is on YouTube, so really apologies for that one. And thank you very much to everyone that is now starting to rejoin the YouTube stream. So
we will obviously try. We're trying to find out why this happened, because it's the second week it's happened. We need to really get to the bottom of it. We need to speak to that young Danny at Phoenix and say, Danny, please help us sort this out so it doesn't happen again, because it's a bit of a nightmare. It's upsetting for you who come on to watch, especially. It's upsetting for us knowing that we're letting you down. So I'm sure I will be on the phone to Danny, which he'll be already groaning about, saying, Danny, please help yet again.
So hopefully we're back. If we are back, please do let us know down in the comments. I think we're running on YouTube perfectly fine at the moment, but please do let us know. It would definitely help.
Lawrie, I'm getting nothing on the comments now. Actually,
no, that's because you're on a different stream. You won't be able to see the comments currently, though. It's a separate stream that's had to be renewed, unfortunately. I think Abby's coming through now. But just whilst we're here, in terms of patients that we've seen over the past couple of weeks, and rescues really that we've seen over the past couple of weeks.
Lawrie, I hate to say this to you, Lawrie, but I'm not hearing much of what you're saying either at the moment. And I'm going to do something very mean, because we very seldom see Abby.
Abby's on stream.
She's sorting our problems. I caught her very quickly before she could look away. See, Abby's always there for us. She doesn't want to be live, which is a real shame, because she'd be brilliant. She's waving very quietly without saying very much, and I think Adam should give us at least £1 million for seeing his wife long on YouTube. So
okay, that's enough now.
It's just abuse now. It really is just abuse, isn't it?
It is abuse. It is abuse. So yeah, Abby's trying to sort my stream out so I can see it, but we keep going. Lawrie, ask me whatever's going on. Tell me what's happening. What we're going to talk about.
So in terms of the calls and the patients that we've seen over the past couple of weeks, really one thing has stood out above all others in terms of the reasoning why. And to you, what is that? Rescue-wise.
Lawrie, I didn't get any of that.
I prompted you royally here.
No, I can't. I'm not hearing you, Lawrie. It's not me being awkward. I cannot hear what you're saying. I don't know why you're cutting out as well.
So Simon appears to have gone deaf. So everything that can go wrong has gone wrong in this one. So apologies for that one. This is meant to work and has worked for 2 years. So I apologise it's all gone wrong. So I'll just quietly start talking through a couple of these things. As you might have seen on the YouTube recently, our main sort of rescue case that we have been dealing with is animals trapped in netting. And it doesn't necessarily have to be netting like this deer. This was in sort of an orange plastic fence that was used to, I think, shield vegetables. This is a grass snake. This is in that tiny little black mesh netting that you get over the top of things like allotments and things like that, just so that the seeds are a little bit protected. And we've also had foxes and several other things actually trapped in something that we see all the time, which is football netting. We see this sadly so many times. It's not just foxes, it's deer, it's hedgehogs, it's a whole load of other things that get stuck in that. And actually it's surprisingly easy to sort it. With all of this netting, all you really need to do is lift it about 30 centimetres, so 1 foot, depending on whether you're in the States or not. Just lift it off the ground, or just put it away when you're not using it. You would be amazed by how many lives you can save and how much suffering that you can prevent just by lifting this netting up or removing it, or just making sure that there's enough gaps in your fencing and anything like that for an animal to get through if it is able to. The thing is, if you have this in your garden, you may never see it. You may never see an animal trapped at all. But on the wildlife rescue side, and it's not just for us here at Wildlife Aid, it's the other charities as well, even Ocean Conservation Namibia, they see it all the time. Other wildlife rescues here in the UK, yes?
I'm going to stop you there because somebody's just tweeted, mega tweet saying, breathe, Lawrie, breathe.
I don't breathe.
It was,
I don't breathe.
He's
I learned how to scuba dive, and the first rule in there was that you never hold your breath, so...
So no, it's I'm actually having, I don't know why our line's so bad, because I'm having trouble hearing you as well, Lawrie, tonight. So it hasn't been a good night all the way round, but I'm glad you're all back. It's really great. We are getting towards the end. I don't know whether we want to do another one maybe next week, Lawrie, which is a bit tempting fate for everything because some people have lost tonight. Let us know. We will obviously be back in 2 weeks' time. If you really want us back next week, I will ask Lawrie very nicely. And we'll see if we can do one next week, but it's up to you guys. I'm happy either way. It's great to talk to you, it's great to tell you what we do, it's great that you're interested in what we do, which always amazes me to pieces, but there we are. So let us know if you want us back next week. We will do our very best, but you've got to understand we are not touching the sides of it. Lawrie, Abby, me and all the vet team and all the volunteers are absolutely flat out, literally 24/7, and I'm very old to be doing that now. I keep falling asleep. But there we are.
So, question from Emma. What is best to do if a fox gets run over, as I live near a busy road and our animal rescue centre is quite bad over there?
It's like saying, what's wrong with my fox? Can you diagnose it without seeing it? I can't give you an answer to that question. It depends, all sorts of things. Every case is different. It might be a minor, just grazed by a car and it's going to be fine in 20 minutes. It could be really serious. But what we will need you to do is observe from a distance, make sure the animal's safe from any other cars that are around, try to get it off to the side or stop cars going too near it. But I can't give you that answer. We need to know more. A video, this is why I think in the last 4 or 5 years our work's become in a way much easier, because we can get a video of something going on. A picture was what we used to get, now we get video. It gives us a huge depth more of knowledge than we had before, so we can really begin to feel what's going on without actually seeing the animal. It's not the same as seeing the animal, we need to see it really, but it gives us far more information. And we find now we're doing ourselves out of work really, because we had a call the other day. Somebody rang up, oh, I've got some ducklings in my swimming pool, mum's on the side, it's all going horribly wrong. Now in the old days, we would have rushed off to that, we would have rescued the ducklings, we would have got them with mum and everything's fine. But we've learned over the years that actually if you just put a plank of water at quite a shallow angle, though not too steep, into the water and you put a towel over that plank, the ducklings will all come out and go off with mum. So we're doing ourselves out of work, which is good in a way, but it's really nice that mum can get her ducklings back, no stress, no problem, and off they all went together. So they made this call, I think they got quite cross because we wouldn't go, and we just said, look, just try that. And 15 minutes later they ran back saying the ducklings went up the plank, they were okay to get up it because they were on a towel so they didn't slip, and off they went with mum. I've been trying to do that with Lawrie for ages. I've been trying to put a towel up the plank, but he just won't walk the plank.
I wondered what that towel was for.
I've been trying to make him walk the plank for years.
Yeah, I suppose that's the thing with centres like us and others. In an ideal world, we just wouldn't exist. As Sally was saying earlier, there's a huge majority of what we deal with that is man-made, whether it's netting or any sort of, unfortunately we deal with cruelty cases as well, entrapments, a lot of things like that, nest disturbances, huge thing at this time of year. And in an ideal world, none of that would happen. And it's not necessarily people doing it intentionally. There's this lack of knowledge about what to do in certain situations with wildlife, and a lack of knowledge about how certain types of fencing can be so damaging to animals. And the big thing is, if we all knew that, 95% of us would make all the changes necessary to stop it ever happening again, and centres like us just wouldn't be needed because everyone would know what to do.
I can retire! I can retire! Hey, yeah!
But unfortunately, with everything that is going on with that, and without the education, one thing that Sally alluded to earlier, even as a vet, you don't get trained in wildlife. And it's a huge sort of issue that we have with the education that we have about our native species. We don't realise the hedgehog is suffering a decline faster than that of the tiger. It's remarkable, really, how naive we really are.
The hedgehog is nearly as endangered as Lawrie Brayley. Nearly, not quite, but nearly. No, I mean, I know I was going to argue with Sally, but I thought this is the first time on YouTube I wouldn't. She says sort of 50-60% of our patients coming because of man. I actually and honestly believe through 40 years of doing this that it's nearer, it's certainly above 90%, and it's very nearly up to 95-99%. I think most patients we get, if you think back of how something's happened, it's because of mankind. I think if you have any garden, if you have any respect for our planet, if you have any respect for nature, if you've got a nice garden, beautiful, I mean, you're lucky people, enjoy it, but just walk around the garden once a day. That's all it probably needs. Just walk around once a day, check the fences, check everything, because something could be happening in a deep, dark point of your garden which you wouldn't notice.
Yeah.
Animals in trouble, either be netting or stuck in a fence or something. Walk, I mean, it's your garden, guys, enjoy it, but just walk around it once a day, just looking to see what you can make better, see what hazards you could actually stop being there. I mean, the biggest thing we get in gardens is not only the fences, but it's also not only the netting, but it's the fences. So if you get sort of a fence and a wall, I'm trying to get two bits of the thing together. So normally, you know, a bit of fencing's next to a pillar or something, but sometimes over time that happens. You wouldn't think it's anything, but sadly wildlife will find that gap and they'll get stuck down it. So a leg will slide down there, it'll lock it off, or its tail will get stuck, something will get stuck, and it won't be able to get out. So any little V's like that, all you've got to do is put a little block of wood at the top to stop that happening. It's so easy to make your garden much more wildlife friendly, much more wildlife secure. But just walk around the garden once a day, guys. Enjoy it, love it, and look at nature, and just make sure nature's doing okay.
It's a little rule that we have with the pens that we have at the centre here. If you leave one tiny thing exposed, whether it be one nail that's not quite hammered in properly or one bit of wire that's exposed, an animal will find it and will find a way to either destroy it or get tangled up in it. It's the nature of it. Our fox pens at the top, they are thoroughly checked constantly, because a tiny little screw that's gone slightly too far through there, if a fox jumped up at it, time is choking, if a fox jumped up at it and caught its paw pad, the damage could be huge. And we have to deal with that here, where we're actually very aware of what we're trying to avoid with the animals that are in there. And if you do that in a fence, you have no idea that it's still there.
Wildlife works under the law of sod. Sod's law will tell you
Murphy's
that if
law.
it can find a problem, Murphy's law to Lawrie, sod's law to me. Just watch very. Just think what could catch the wildlife out, and it might be obscure. It might be something like a bit of wire fence sticking up like that. Just think like the animal. Think what the animal could do if it tries to jump over it, and make it right. It's so easy to do it. It's basically an IDOC, isn't it? You know, you see a bit of fence sticking out and nails sticking out. That's your IDOC for the day. We haven't talked about IDOC much today, but Douglas is working really hard doing IDOC, and it's beginning to catch on. Anybody wants to know more, any guide troops out there, brownies, scouts, whoever want to know more about IDOC, because doing one thing, we can make a difference. I mean, as I said many times before, we all think we can't make a difference, but if everybody did one thing a day, this is Simon's absolutely going like he always does, but that would be 24 billion actions a year. So one IDOC from all of us once a day, costs you nothing, takes you no time, would make 24 billion things better for our wildlife, for our habitat, and for our planet. So I leave it at that, guys. Follow IDOC, follow Douglas.
For those of you asking as well, no, Simon did not just crack a beer. That would be hilarious. He doesn't drink beer, and I don't think he ever has. He's addicted to Diet Coke to the point I'm fairly sure if he cut himself, Diet Coke would be what would spill out. So it was just a Coke on there. It wasn't a beer. So Davey has asked, I put leftover and past sell-by date bread out for the birds. Is there any issue with that?
Bread's not the best of things. I mean, we always try, whatever we feed here, we try to feed as near to a natural diet as we can. So, you know, people feed swans and ducks white bread. Is not ideal. Brown bread is better, but what they would normally get in the wild, try to replicate that. At least grain is around in the wild, they would get that. So, yeah, it's Trouble is, if everybody thinks I'm the only one who does it, then they get too much of it. So what we try to say is that don't feed things which they wouldn't be able to find in the wild, or something very similar to what they would find in the wild. So ideally, my sad answer is going to be, please don't feed bread, because it's not the best for them.
It's the thing is with bread as well. If it's mouldy, it can cause major issues depending on the species as well. So if it is mouldy, it's better just not to risk it. It's the same thing with mouldy vegetables and mouldy meat as well. The general rule is if you wouldn't have it, it's generally not okay, just in case at that point. Jamie's also asked, do you have set working hours, or are you on call all of the time?
Our connection, Lawrie, between you and me is awful. I'm not really getting all of it. I'm getting enough to pick you up, but I'm really getting very little of what you're saying to me, to be honest. Set working hours, yes we do. Our hours are very set, it's contractually written. We work 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Set working
9
hours.
9 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Yep, yep, absolutely right. 9, yep. 24 hours a day, that's us, that's our set working hours. I, however, can't quite do that, so I make Lawrie do it all and I do a bit less. Works for me.
So it's a bit of a sort of middle ground within there. So in terms of the main shifts that we do, we have 3 main shifts a day. So that's 9 a.m. till 1 p.m, 1 p.m. till 6 p.m, and 6 p.m. till whenever the main centre closes. In terms of the volunteer side of things, that is when you're really meant to be in. But I'm fairly sure that every single person in the centre, whether it's volunteer, staff, vet, whoever, works long outside those hours. And you'll often get, I believe the volunteers were closing up around about 1 o'clock in the morning, maybe just before it yesterday. And we are incredibly lucky to have a huge volunteer base that are not only passionate for the work that we do here, but are dedicated enough that they are willing to stay until 1 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday night, helping feed birds that need feeding every 15 minutes and really don't want to be near a human being. I am astounded with the support that we have on the volunteer side of things. But it has to be by nature. It has to be a 24/7 commitment. You've worked well through Christmas Day for 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning for 41 years, I suppose now.
I've just had a question come out actually. Laurie's saying, somebody's saying they'd like to know more about IDOC. Abby is really the IDOC queen along with Douglas. Trouble is trying to get her back on screen to talk to you about IDOC. Tonight will not happen. We will try to drug her in such a way that she will talk to you about it sometime. But IDOC it is on our website, all about IDOC. We are still finishing off our new website for IDOC, and then as soon as that's finished, we're going to do an app for it. So IDOC is going to get bigger quite soon with much more information on it. But if you really want to know more, send us an email. Send Lawrie an email, Abby an email, me an email, and we can tell you more about it. But it is a movement which is so desperately important to be taken up by everybody in the world. If everybody did it, it would make a huge difference. So IDOC's terribly important. And to me, the new centre that we're building now is my IDOC. It's my legacy to leave to the future. So people will keep picking it up, keep learning, keep understanding why we need our planet intact to keep our wildlife intact. Lawrie, we're sort of nearly out of time. I know it's been a bit short on YouTube.
We are, yes.
So I think because we've got so much going on, perhaps we should.
We do. My phone's actually going off. So we'll just do one more question, and then unfortunately we will have to leave it for this evening. We will make sure we look into these problems, and this won't happen again. We will absolutely guarantee it.
Will it, Danny? Say, Danny, it won't happen again, Danny, will it?
So the question is, what should I leave out in the garden in summer to help wildlife? And I can think of one main answer for that. I wonder if yours will be the same as mine.
The answer is nothing apart from water if you haven't got a water source in your garden. If you've got a pond in your garden or a bird bath, you're doing fine, guys. If you have no water sources in your garden, I would put a low source down for hedgehogs and things like that, but a shallow bowl so it doesn't tip, so it's solid all day, and then put something
shallow
up
enough they
higher.
can't drown in it as well.
Yeah, I've been trying to drown Lawrie for years. You can drown in an inch of water. No, and higher for birds, so put that up on a table or something above ground so the birds don't get molested by the mammals. But yeah, so water is the most important thing at this time of year particularly. And the other thing very important this time of year, it's not a feeding thing, but if you see an animal looking a bit lethargic or with flies around it or with little yellow spots all over it, that's fly eggs and even maggots on it, please let us know if you get something with fly strike, because we need to act very quickly. So
yes.
Ring up your local wildlife hospital, say, look, I've got this animal, I think it's got fly strike. If you can get a picture of it, great. But it will more than likely not need attention very urgently before they little fly eggs turn into maggots and then they start eating in, and it's not a pretty sight.
That's the other thing as well with a lot of calls that we get at this time of year. If you do find an animal that is not in immediate danger but you are worried about it, please call for advice first. We've had a lot of cases of fledgling birds. So when a bird fledges for the first time, it will spend a couple of days on the ground and won't be able to fly. And the amount of birds that we've had brought in that can't fly to danger to this, that and the other, if you just left that animal there, it would be absolutely fine. We do try and get as many back as we possibly can, but unfortunately some are taken into vet practice. We don't have contact details. So if you do see an animal that's not in immediate danger, please just call for advice first. No wildlife rescue will resent that at all, and hopefully it should be a case of just leaving it be, not stressing it out with capture, and it will be okay.
So, Lawrie, you're going to say goodnight now, Lawrie, aren't you?
I am. So unfortunately we are going to have to go because there's a number of calls coming in. My phone is going absolutely nuts at the moment. Just Robin, is it possible to work there as a volunteer? If you do want to join us as a volunteer, please head over to our website, which is wildlifeaid.org.uk. There's a tab on there called Get Involved, and you can find out about the application process to be a volunteer. If you could, that would be absolutely amazing. We love our volunteers to bits. They are the absolute lifeblood in the centre, and we could not do what we do without them. So if you do want to, please head over to the website. So thank you very much to all of you for tuning in. As always, thank you for the questions, for the donations. I'm sorry once again about all the technical issues. It is incredibly irritating, incredibly embarrassing, and certainly should not be what we are doing. So we'll make sure that that is not going to happen again. But thank you all for sticking with us. We really appreciate listening to Simon and me waffle on for an hour. Rather you than me on that one. But we will see you in 2 weeks' time. Maybe slightly earlier if Simon wants it, but in 2 weeks' time.
With a bit of luck now, Lawrie is actually going to take a breath. So I can say goodnight. I've just had one of my dogs has come in. He obviously wants something to eat. Toby has just come in, but we can't see him. He's down the other end of the office. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to see my dogs. We're going to get on with our work. Laurie's going to answer all the call-outs, and we're going to say thank you, everybody. Not only all you watching, but our volunteers, our staff. It is what it is because you make it what it is. So thank you and good night.
Well put.